Prayers.
Almighty God, who in infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under the deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interest you've committed to their charge. Amen.
Item 2 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I welcome you to the sitting. It's a special sitting. Today, this parliament has had both sittings, both the ordinary sitting of parliament, which took place in the morning up to midday, and we have now the special sitting where we'll debate the tribute motion for the late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. I'll make the communications which I have received once the body is in. Please proceed.
Item 3. The casket is transferred from the central lobby to the chamber. Honorable members, please stand up. Then we'll have the Uganda National Anthem and the East African Community Anthem. The anthems, starting with the Uganda National Anthem. Honorable members, please resume your seats. Item 4 on the order paper, laying of the wreath on the casket by dignitaries in the following order. The Right Honourable Speaker. The Right Honourable Prime Minister and Leader of Government Business. The Leader of the Opposition in Parliament. Followed by the Government Chief Whip. Followed by the Chief Opposition Whip. Followed by Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Followed by Minister for Security. Followed by the Minister for Bunyoro Affairs. Minister of Bunyoro Affairs. Followed by the Parliamentary Commission. Followed by a representative of the East African Legislative Assembly. Followed by the Democratic Party whip. Followed by Uganda People's Congress whip. UPC whip. Followed by the NRM Parliamentary Caucus. NRM Parliamentary Caucus. Followed by the Uganda Parliamentary Caucus. Followed by Bugisu Parliamentary Caucus. Followed by West Nile Parliamentary Caucus. Followed by UPDF caucus. UPDF. Followed by Honorable Sempala Chigozi. Followed by a representative of the Deputy Chief Justice. To be followed by a representative of the East African Legislative Assembly MPs elect. followed by a representative of the NRM Secretariat. Followed by a race from Professor Gilbert Kenya to be led by the Buganda caucus chair. Followed by Buganda Youth to be represented by Honorable Babiri Ekityo. Item 5, motion for a resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, former Minister, stroke Member of Parliament for Masaka East, Masaka District.
Honourable members, before the General moves the motion, let me make some recognitions of the persons who have come to join us in paying tribute to the late Honourable Mayanja Nkanji. Honourable members, you'll realize that this is a very unique sitting of the House. We have seen what has happened, and I'm sure that if the Honourable Rukutana was asked outside this House that he represented UPC, he would deny. But we are using the prerogative of this special moment to accommodate all. And I'm sure also if the member for Bunyoli had been asked since when he became minister in charge of Luero. I sit on the appointment committee, I have not seen him appearing there. But also we'll use the generosity of this moment to accommodate those things. I've also seen parties crossing lines, but that speaks to the character of the person we pay tribute to this afternoon. Joash Mayanja Nkanji was a good person. He crossed all lines that were not supposed to be crossed. He brought everybody together. He never divided anybody. And I'm sure that is why we are speaking the way we are speaking. And this is also the first time that this House is full inside its House, and also its galleries. It's completely full. It's a special moment, and we should take this moment to recognize the contribution from the departed hero. In the technical bench, we have Mrs. Ruth Mayanja Nkanji and the family right behind me. And we also have children from Prefectural Body of Kawempe Muslim School and their patron. They have also come for this purpose to observe the proceedings of the House and pay their respect. Almost in the VIP gallery, we have full attendance of basically all the parliaments that have been in this House. We have Professor Gilbert Kenya, His Excellency former Vice President. We have Professor Edward Kakonge. I saw him somewhere, yes. We have Honorable Member formerly of Chua, the Honorable John Livingstone Okelo. We have the Honorable Member for, I think it was Madi, Anthony Butele. Honorable Israel Mayengo, former member for Entebbe Municipality, the Honorable Dr. David Matovo. Honorable Lydia Balemezi, Honorable Henry Chemba, Daudi Migereko, formerly of Butembe, Asuman Chinji, Tim Luanga, Kasiano Wadri, E.B. Florence, Professor Mondo Kagonyera, Honorable Ambassador Paulo Etiang, Dr. Robert Sebunya, Honorable Karusoke Christiantine, Honorable Paul Muiro, formerly of Jinja Municipality East, Honorable Professor Tassis Kabwejere, the Honorable Norbert Mao, formerly of Gulu Municipality, now President General of the Democratic Party. I don't see him, but he's in the list. The Honorable Dr. Siranda General Blacks, DP Secretary General. The Honorable John Kawanga. Honorable Musamali Paul is an elected member of the East African Legislative Assembly. Honorable Ambassador Sendaula Emmanuel. Honorable Mugerwa Kasule. And Mr. Ntege David, clerk to the Buganda Luchiko. I've also been I saw Honorable John Nasasira earlier, Kaazo, formerly of Kaazo. Hey, he's right there. I have condolence messages, and I'll read one which is from the Speaker of the House. Condolence message, Mrs. Ruth Nkanji and family. On behalf of Ugandan Parliament, I write to express mine and Parliament's deepest sympathy on the death of Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. The late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji distinguished himself as a patriot and a nationalist. He diligently served this country in various government ministries and departments where he left clean records. He will be remembered for his contribution to the current laws of Uganda, especially when he participated in the drafting of the 1995 Constitution during the time when he was member of the Constituent Assembly. He was an accomplished legislator, an advisor, a good servant of man and God who loved his kingdom. To crown it all, the late executed acts of courage, acts of love for his country, and left an indelible mark in the hearts of many Ugandans. To Mrs. Ruth Nkanji, I appreciate the tremendous support you gave to your husband till his last breath. We share with you the pain of having lost your dear husband. Equally, I understand the pain the children are feeling, for they will no longer have the care, love, and wisdom they used to get from their father. However, the vast contribution the late made to this country should make the family members celebrate his life and look back to his milestones as a source of inspiration and strength. I pray that God gives you and your family the strength and the faith that transcends the current grief. May the grace of the Almighty sustain your family and rest the soul of the late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji in eternal peace. Signed, Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga, Speaker of Parliament. I have a condolence message from the Buganda Caucus, signed by Honorable Mayanja Johnson, and they are contributing 4 million shillings to the family. I also have a condolence message from the Secretary General of the National Resistance Movement. They are contributing 5 million shillings. I have a condolence message from members-elect of the East African Legislative Assembly, particularly Paul Musamali, Mary Mujenyi, and the Honorable Mukasa Mbide. Those are the condolence messages I have received. General, please present the motion.
Mr. Speaker, sir, motion for resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to the late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji for his diligent service to Uganda, moved under Rule 46 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament. Whereas the Parliament of Uganda received with deep sorrow the sad news of the death of Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji, a former member of Parliament, which occurred on Monday, 6 March 2017 at Nakasero Hospital in Kampala. Aware that Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji has had a distinguished career spanning over 5 decades, he participated in Uganda's pre-independence struggles and post-independence politics, and also a public servant. He is remembered for founding the United Party in 1960 and later became the Secretary General of the United National Party. He was also leader of the Conservative Party from 1980 to 2005. Recognizing that Honorable Mayanja Nkanji served Uganda meticulously in several key positions. Appreciating that Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji was a diligent leader who immeasurably participated in shaping the destiny of Uganda and served Uganda with dedication and patriotism. Now, therefore, this Parliament resolves as follows. 1, that it collectively conveys its deep condolences to relatives, friends, and the people of Uganda upon the loss of Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. 2, that it takes cognizance of the services rendered and contribution made by Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji to Uganda. I therefore beg to move.
Is the motion seconded? Seconded by the Leader of the Opposition, Member for Kalungu West, Member for Mbale Municipality, Gulu Municipality, Member for Chiboga, Honorable Kainda Otafire, Honorable Member for Bamunanika. Would you like to speak to your motion, General? The motion is properly before the House. Would you like to speak to it?
Justification for the resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to the late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. Honorable Speaker and members, it is with deep sadness that we have learned of the passing away of Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji, which occurred on the 6th March 2017 at Nakasero Hospital in Kampala. His death still remains a sad loss to this nation. The country has lost an accomplished lawyer, economist, father, and a statesman who stood out with the humility despite all the titles he held. A statesman, a culturalist who dedicated his life to championing the rule of law, governance, and outstanding leadership and service delivery in Uganda and beyond. He dedicated his life to the unselfish service to the people of Uganda. Born on 22nd August 2031 to Isaiah Sabicha Loyo and Joseph Nantale in Kanyagoga, Kalungu in present day Kalungu district. Honorable Joash Mayanja started his education in 1946 from Kabungo Primary School and Kako Primary School. He later joined King's College Budo for his O-level education. And the Makerere College School for A-level, which led him to Makerere University College of East Africa, which was then affiliated to London University, where he studied maths and economics, and obtained a second-class upper degree of the University of London in 1954. A few months after graduation, Nkangi got a scholarship for master degree in economics and public finance at Oxford University, one of the first Ugandans to make it there. In 1957, he finished his degree and decided to pursue law at Lincoln's Inn of Courts in London, where he qualified as a barrister at law. Right Honorable Speaker and members, in 1960 to 62, Honorable Mayanja Nkanji practiced law as an advocate of the High Court of Uganda and the subordinate courts. In 1960, Nkanji started his own party with the aim of bringing everyone together. His party was called the United Party, which he later changed to United National Party. In 1962, he abandoned it and joined the Kabaka Yeka youth wing, which he co-founded KY Party. Nkanji was elected KY Member of Parliament for Masaka East in May 1962. In his selfless service to his country, the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji served this country in various capacities. From May to November 1962, he served as a parliamentary secretary and then minister without portfolio, Minister of Economic Affairs, responsible for East African economic affairs. Honorable Mayanja Nkanji was appointed a Minister of Commerce and Industry in November 1971. Nkanji was appointed the Katikiro, that is Prime Minister of Uganda Kingdom, during the coup d'etat by Dr. Milton Obote. He was exiled to the United Kingdom, but he continued exercising the functions of Katikiro of Uganda Kingdom until the restoration of the kingdom in 1994. After the successful handover of the office as Katikiro in 1994, he opted to work as a research fellow of the University of Lancaster, Department of Economics in the United Kingdom in 1968 to 1971. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji in 1985 to 86 was appointed a Minister of Labor in the government of Uganda. From 1968 to 2002, Honorable Mayanja Nkanji held portfolios under the National Resistance Movement government, ranging from Minister of Education, Minister of Finance, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. In 2013, Honorable Mayanja Nkanji was appointed the chairman of Uganda National Land Commission, a position he held till 2015 when he retired from active public service to concentrate on his law chambers, where he practiced law till the time of his demise. Whereas Mayanja Nkanji was an accomplished lawyer who would otherwise carry himself with pride and self-importance, he carries himself with simplicity, a very humble man who interacted at any given time with the people from all walks of life. Honorable Nkanji was an honest person who cherished integrity and his personality, and this was exhibited in the various portfolios. He held various portfolios where he leaves a clean record with no single dent wherever he set foot. Despite the scramble for prime land during his tenure as the chairman of the Land Commission, Honorable Nkanji never craved for a single piece of land. And this is the man who lies before us today and whose legacy we celebrate. Because of honorably and exemplary leadership, the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji was in 1991 awarded the Order of Merit by King College, Boto. In 2011-2013, he was a member of Council of Undeje University. And finally, the late was awarded the Golden Jubilee Medal by the Republic of Uganda. The government always esteemed his audacious and constructive ideas on a number of issues, and indeed several of these philosophies and aspirations informed the policy discussions that have led to our dedication and commitment to improving governance in Uganda. The history of our country can never be complete unless the name of Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, and indeed as a hero, has been in the struggle since independence, and he has left a phenomenal record of his transformative legacy. The cause of death. The late Mayanja Nkanji succumbed to pneumonia, according to the postmortem report. Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, as a nation, we have lost such a distinguished, gallant statesman whose life, legacy, and charisma we honor and celebrate. We share in the sorrow of this loss with the widow, Mrs. Ruth Muriel Mayanja Nkanji, the children, friends, colleagues, the nation, and the world at large. May his soul rest in perpetual peace. General Moses Salve. Thank you.
Thank you, General, for moving the motion and speaking to it. Second of the motion, the Leader of the Opposition. Please proceed. In this case, is a member for Rukunjiri Municipality.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise to second a motion for a resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to an icon of selflessness, a gentleman of special repute, a Ugandan recognized across the globe, a brain exemplified by works, a professional in theory and practice, a personality whom many loved to associate with, Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. Right Honorable Speaker, Uganda has lost an icon of truth and a committed democrat. We have lost a crusader for meaningful society transformation, a humble and a religious man, a complete politician, a loving and ever-fulfilling family man. Right Honorable Speaker, we should not mourn Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, but rather celebrate his life. He has left a legacy which we should all emulate as leaders, a legacy of a leader who never used his leadership positions for selfish gains, love for development and democratic governance. Right Honorable Speaker, Uganda has lost a true servant who loved his country and was instrumental in Uganda's independence. He believed that the Conservative Party would represent both the interests of Uganda as a nation and traditional institutions. Right Honorable Speaker, as a committed patriot Ugandan who believed in institutions, Honorable Mayanja Nkanji spearheaded the discussions of the formation of merging the three institutions of Uganda Polytechnical Kyambogo, Institute of Teacher Education Kyambogo, and Uganda National Institute of Special Education, that later became Kyambogo University in 2003. This explains his love for development, thus championing of a strong education system in Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, while Mayanja Nkanji served as the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, he oversaw the establishment of Uganda Investment Authority. His efforts were the Uganda Investment Authority to give equity to all investors, to have fine and equal incentives for all investors in Uganda, to invest in Uganda for flourish. Unfortunately, foreign investors have been given priority over Ugandan investors, even when they are dealing with the same products. Right Honorable Speaker, his aim with the Uganda Investment Authority was to identify areas that were largely behind, that needed investments in strategic products like the production of ARVs. Also looking at the regional balance through mapping of Uganda to balance investments. The fact that the above is not yet achieved, I believe Honorable Mayanja Nkanji has died a frustrated man because he has lived not to see the Uganda Investment Authority that he dreamt of. Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, as the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs between 1998 to 2002, he lived a challenging period in his life. As a believer of democracy, it was challenging that political parties, including his party, the Conservative Party, were limited by this current regime to operate at their headquarters. His relief as a great champion of democracy and multipartyism came in 2005, when multi-party system was restored under 2005 referendum. Right Honorable Speaker, I quote the party president of the Forum for Democratic Change, FDC, Major General Mugisha Muntu. He said, Mayanja Nkanji always wanted to do things in a straightforward manner as a higher path to building the nation. His experience will forever be missed as one who operated under difficult times. Right Honorable Speaker, Mayanja Nkanji lived a meaningful life whose footsteps shall always be an inspiration to the pro-people leaders in Uganda. Farewell, Joas Mayanja Nkanji. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for the secondment. Honorable Members, the motion that I now propose for your debate is for a resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to the late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji for his diligent service to Uganda, and specifically that this Parliament collectively conveys its deep condolences to the relatives, friends, and the people of Uganda upon the loss of Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji, and that it takes cognizance of the services rendered and contribution made by the Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji to Uganda. That is the motion for your debate, and debate starts now. Honorable members, this House will be raising advice from the family just after 5. So let's see how to manage the time properly. And can we agree on how much time we are going to take on this? If we are going to do free speaking, we know that we are ending at 5:15 or 5:30 maximum. 3 minutes? 3 minutes? Okay, we'll take 3 minutes, and I'll start with the member for Youth Central. Let me first take this opportunity also to recognize the presence of Honorable Joyce Mpanga, who I had not seen earlier. Please, proceed.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand here to say a few things that we, the young people of this region, the Central Region, and Uganda at large, shall miss from our parent, our dad, our grandfather, our best friend and our ally, Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, he has always told us as young people, we've been meeting him, most especially when he was the chairman for Uganda Land Commission. He always told us that it's not good to acquire a lot of property, most especially in a wrong way. He also told us that this country needs us as young people, but before we do or before we expect a lot, we need to love this country. Before we even think about our tribes and families and all that, we need to know that we are human beings who should always fight for justice for all people. So I would kind of like to request the family, the young people of Uganda, the young people of Uganda, always to avoid conflicts, just like he has always emphasized, but to focus on serving this country, just like he did. That's all I had to say, and may his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Kalungu West.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, the gentleman lying in front of us here was the Member of Parliament of the constituency I'm taking. And indeed, Kalungu West and Kalungu as a district and Uganda as a nation has lost someone. When you look at the history of the Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, he went through a very, very poor primary school. And because of his knowledge and being bright in class, he was given scholarships. He was taken to Kako, taken to Budo, and by then that was the type of school. The question is, can we still get this kind of children in Uganda in the current UPE schools? I was in his area where we are going to bury him. And someone gave me 17 children to take them on scholarship if they had got first grades, and there was none. The question goes to you, government. What went wrong? You must answer that one. Secondly, he has walked the talk. In the committee of a park where I sit, we got a problem where the president had written to Mayanja Nkanji, the ministers of then, for finance, to compensate Burundi for money they had lent the NRA, guerrilla fighters, during the Bush War. And it was 16 billion. By that time, my chairperson of the committee chairman was Honorable Kasiyano Wadri. And indeed, Mayanja Nkanji wrote back to the president and said, we can't pay money to someone who was fighting a legitimate government because that would have been treason. And Interesting enough, after I had left the ministry, the one who took over paid the money. This is the Mayanja Nkanji we are seeing here. Recently we were in Kosase, and the minister said there was a directive I had to pay. Mayanja Nkanji has left a legacy. When you talk about Buganda Kingdom, what is meant by that instrument of power, Damula, being safeguarded during the turbulence that was in Buganda, and you find this young man managing to keep the instrument of power which was handed over to him by the king, you have to give him respect, and he handed it over in 1993. When you go to the Conservative Party, he handed over power willingly. People have refused to hand over power. You beseech them, you tell them you cannot move any further, they will never hand over power. Even when they feel they are tired, they continue to press themselves on the people. This is the Nkanji we are talking about, from Kalungu West constituency, represented by Sewungu Joseph Gonzaga.
Mbale municipality.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand on behalf of the people of Mbale to pay our sincere condolences to the wife of late Mayanja Nkanji, the family, relatives, and friends. Mr. Speaker, we are politicians, and there's no politician in this country who does not know the name Joash Mayanja Nkanji. There was another name called Ab Mayanja. These were the two names in the politics of Uganda. These are the people who struggled for independence. Mayanja Josh was a wonderful person, a very simple person. I happened to work with him closely when I was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Speaker. And when we were on a delegation outside, he was Minister of Finance. But can you believe Mayanja Nkanji would live in a very simple hotel in West London around Elscott, Kensington High Street, paying £30 a night with officers. He never chose to go and live in those big hotels. He was a very simple person. And what is shocking with the names of big people, when they are traveling, they are given what they call contingent allowance. But Mayanja Nkanji, as Minister of Finance, would bring the money back to the treasury. How many people do that? He shocked many of us that the man will return the money to treasury, contingent allowance. And when people are given that terms, they don't want to talk about it. They put it on the table and they cover it. The man used to return that money. That's the man we're mourning today. This is a man, when he was down here in lands, he could have acquired the most expensive land in this country. But you remember what these people did around. But the man remained a simple person. This is the man we're mourning. So when I look around and ask Ugandans, that how many of us who leave such a legacy? The man served across the whole country. He never discriminated. And when he appeared before us at the Public Accounts Committee, very simple and very calm. He answered all the questions. Very, very intelligent. So this is the man we're mourning. I want Ugandans to emulate Mayanja Nkanji, to live the life and serve Ugandans. Dedicated. He was dedicated to serving whatever position he was given, he was there to serve. And Mayanja Nkanji served. May the Almighty God give him eternal peace.
General Tafire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to eulogize an icon, a great man who lived a humble life, a man with right-wing ideas who tolerated my left-of-center ideas and cherished them.
He was dignified. He was humble. I'm proud to serve in his footsteps as steward of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, where he did tremendous work. Tremendous work, like it's been said, albeit his conservative views. He accommodated the views of those of us who didn't believe with him, but he respected our views and the views of the majority. I also had occasion to serve with him in the Department of Lands. He was chairman when I was the chief steward. I remember when we had the Butabika land giveaway, there was a lot of controversy. I believed that we should give away the land, and he was a bit reluctant. So he came to me and said, what do we do with Butabika? I said, give away the land. He said, there will be controversy. I said, I'll take political responsibility. Give it away. Give an opportunity, I'll give it away again. I'll take political responsibility. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. Because when the hospital was built, the outer reaches of Kampala were at Silver Spring. That Butabika place was ideal for a mental asylum. Right now, the city is at the footsteps of the hospital and it's no longer ideal for a mental asylum. So it should be relocated. He said, I agree with you, but you'll burn in hell when it comes to Parliament. And indeed, when it was brought here in Parliament, I told Parliament, I gave away the land because I believed in what I was doing, and given an opportunity, I'd give it away again. And anybody who didn't believe in what I was doing could go and jump in the lake. He stood by me. He was a great man. End of the day, we all work for a moment like this. It's not the troubles we create while we are on earth. It's not what we acquire while we are on earth. He is going down with 2 by 4. That's all. Nothing more. Like this young lady said, it's not the acquisitions that you make while you're on earth. It is what people say on a day like this one. This is your only legacy that remains lasting after everything else has been said and done. He was a great man, and he's written his name in history. The inscription is cast in stone. Nobody can wish it away. This is Joash Mayanja Nkanji. He never worked for divine
Chiboga, can I have...
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I received a request from Oweekitiibwa Christine Mugerwa Kasule, who is here in the gallery. She has come with Oweekitiibwa Ambassador Emmanuel Sendaula, the first Deputy Katikkiro, and Omukungu David Ntege, the clerk of the Lukiiko. Right Honourable Speaker, today, at exactly 9 in the morning, there was a special session of Lukiiko. This is the Parliament in Mengo, where Parliament resolved to pay, the Lukiiko resolved to pay tribute. And I have a copy of the resolution of the Lukiiko, which in English, I have both versions, in Luganda and in English, which I beg that I lay on table as a record in honor of the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji. The special session of Buganda Lukiiko today resolved as follows: that that the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji be honored for the following achievements. One, the faithfulness that he exhibited in the length of time he kept the royal instruments of power, which is called the Damla, from 1964 to 1994, including keeping hope alive among the Baganda during the difficult times when the kingdom was abolished. This faithfulness as a leader helped restore the kingdom. And B, he never denied his allegiance to Buganda and the Kabaka throughout his life, and this is a mark of a true hero. And C, the humility and respect for all people. And D, the integrity and honesty in everything that the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji did. The ability to sit and talk to those he disagreed with, an intelligent and well-spoken person, and a patriot who fought for the independence of this country, and a good example to all people in all things, especially in timeliness, in cleanliness, and smartness. And his love for culture, especially in his faithful service to the Kabaka. It was signed by Christine Mgera Kasule, Minister for Luchiko and Cabinet Affairs. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, on my own behalf, I want to join the rest of colleagues who have stood here to pay tribute to Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. There are only 3 areas which I identified in his history. Right Honorable Speaker, Owechitibwa Mayanja Nkanji was put to test when he was in exile with his Kabaka, a younger Katikiro at that time. It wasn't easy. That was a very difficult time. He was keeping hope with everybody, but was also taking charge of his Katikirship while in abroad. The second one, Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable Mayanja Nkanji witnessed the passing on of Ssaabasajja Kabaka Mutesa while in exile. This is the ugliest moment when you were a Katikiro in exile, and then all of a sudden, the principle collapses in your hands. How you relay the information to the subjects is not something simple. The other one, sir, is the negotiation with President Idi Amin to return the remains of the Kabaka. This was not simple. You could not trust President Idi Amin, how he was going to react, but he stood firm and he pushed that the body of Ssaabasajja Kabaka comes back to Uganda, and he succeeded. Lastly, and we appreciate President Idi Amin, but as I said, sir, it was tricky because you could not take him for granted. The last one, sir, negotiating with President Museveni on the restoration of kingdoms in Uganda. At that time, 1993, when a decision was made, the whole country was not ready, save for Uganda, which stood firm and pushed through the leadership of the person we are honoring today. His patience, his character. He was soft-spoken, but that was his strength. He attracted people to listen to him. May he succeed.
Thank you. Bufumbira? Is it Bufumbira?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I join the rest of my colleagues in expressing deepest sense of loss concerning the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji. I came to know Mayanja Nkanji, Honorable, when I briefly served as his personal assistant in 1985. And what I saw, Mr. Speaker, was a man like no other man I had come across. He never carried the baggage of tribalism. He never carried the baggage of sectarianism. He was a fine man. And I want to challenge all of us who are privileged to be in this position of leadership to be like this man. I know one of the issues that continues to bedevil our nation is really having men and women of the kind of quality that that man was. When I became Minister for Ethics and Integrity, Mr. Speaker, he was concerned about the state of morality in this nation. The idea that morality was quickly giving way to situations that could easily undermine the security, the stability, the unity, and prosperity of this nation. He was very concerned. And so he came to me and said, look, what do we do? And we agreed, Mr. Speaker, that we should have a national conference where we would invite men and women of integrity, stakeholders across the nation, to look at this question of morality. That if we do not handle it, it will quickly undermine every gain that we have made over the years. Mr. Speaker, he has gone to be with the Lord, and I say so knowingly because I knew he loved the Lord. Seriously. And I'm excited to know that one day I'll meet him when the Lord himself comes to take us up there. Mr. Speaker, this is a serious situation we are facing, and I implore all those who are leaders in this nation that if we do not do something radical concerning the state of moral health in this nation, we are in deep trouble. And I want to pledge, Mr. Speaker, with your help and the help of honorable members, that this year we should have that national conference on morality in this nation in memory of that great man there. May I end here, Mr. Speaker, by assuring the family of the deceased that we will keep them in our prayers.
Koboko.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, in going to London University, subsequently to Oxford University, did not go into his head. He remained true to himself. There are some of us, I know of a few people who got scholarships to go abroad. They came back with changed accents, changed the style of walk, and even decided not to eat the local food anymore. Not this man here. He remained a true Muganda, loyal to his king, loyal to his country, until his death. But the one I want to remember most for, and I had opportunity to interact with him when I went to renew my land titles when he was chairman of Uganda Land Commission. This man was a truly, deeply conservative man, a true believer in his ideals. He tried, but very unsuccessfully, to convince me to join his party. I told him, me, I'm dying with the NRM, and will continue to rule this country forever. But the Honorable Mayanja,
The Honorable Mayanja instilled a principle in me, which I hope, as we go into review of our constitutional reform, we can take this into account. Mayanja deeply believed in proportional representation. In that, because of the nature of our country, with different tribes, different religions, different ethnic groups, different parties, maybe proportional representation will serve us better. Maybe as we go towards constitutional reform, this is an area we should reflect on. Although deep in my heart, I know NRM will continue to dominate even under this arrangement. But I would like to pay my tribute to this gentleman who has left a lasting legacy of a humble man, but who has contributed greatly to his country. I thank you, sir.
Kumi, municipality.
Right Honorable Speaker, as a young man, I know most of you will say, but what does he have to say about the late, given the age difference? Two, I'm a new member of parliament who has just joined this parliament. But I think I'm the best suited person to speak about the late. Why? Somebody can be best known by what he did, and not just physical meeting together. Right Honorable Speaker, as a student, I used to hear on radio comments about the late, and that's how I got to understand he's a powerful man. Even in the panels where I was looking for jobs, they would ask me about him. What is the name of the current finance minister, for instance? I had to cram. And that was very important. People cannot cram your name if you are not a very important person. For sure. But what I mostly want to put up is this. Right Honorable Speaker, on NTV, one evening, I was watching. The late, when they played the review of what he had said, was emphasizing on issues of local content. He was talking about being Ugandan, and he was asking one of the studio persons, what is it that you are putting on that is Ugandan in you? And what is the value? I want to thank Honorable Oshabe Patrick for having brought the local content bill. If the late was still around, I know I would have been very happy with you, Patrick. So let us really front his ideas. You can't die a great man if you have died without any idea that you have left behind for debate. This is a great man. The issue for debate is, what are we doing about local content as a country of Uganda? And I think that is it. It makes him great. Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Kawempe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we pay tribute to the gallant son of this land, the late Mayanja Nkanji, what must ring a bell in our minds is his contributions towards the development of our country. Mr. Speaker, sir, I knew the late Mayanja Nkanji in the late 1990s as one of the great customers of my late father, Alhaji Shaban Sebagala, at Naxelo Market. During my holidays, I used to go and assist him. But my father was very close to late Mayanja Nkanji and Mrs. Nkanji. And he was ever supportive. And whenever he was coming for shopping, we used to go and assist him by carrying the basket up to the stall and also taking the basket back to the stall. But ever since then, I have followed how the late Mayanja Nkanji has been contributing to the development of this country. But what I have learned, that it's not how much you have managed to gather in as far as your various responsibilities are concerned, but how you have been honest and trustworthy in as far as what you are supposed, what your mandate has been. The late Mayanja Nkanji has been very honest. Given the fact that he has been serving this country since 1960s, you would have expected Mayanja Nkanji to have many arcades around, either here in Uganda or even abroad. But I believe Mayanja Nkanji has lived a humble life, and he has managed to live within his means. What we should really believe as young politicians is whenever you are given an opportunity to serve this country, please, let's borrow the motto of the Rotarians, as Mayanja Nkanji has been, service above self. Mayanja Nkanji's service has been above self, and we shall miss him, and the only gift that we can really give is for us to borrow a leaf and also make sure that whenever we are given an opportunity, we serve in accordance with what Mayanja Nkanji has been trying to do. I finally send my condolences to the family and also to the people of Kalungu for having lost such a great man. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Rushenyi.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. On my own behalf, and on behalf of the entire legal fraternity, I rise to join my colleagues to pay tribute to this great lawyer. Sometimes when we lawyers call ourselves land people, some of you think we are just jacks of all trades, but masters of none. But the gentleman lying here demonstrated what we mean. He read mathematics, he read economics, but he excelled as a lawyer. I want to testify that this great man was a refined, honest, professional, hardworking, truthful, and useful lawyer to this country. While you members of parliament look at the Hansard, we as lawyers look at the law reports. Whenever you read the East African law reports, the Uganda law reports, where the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji participated in handling any case, you really get a lot of wisdom. So, I have no doubt stating to you that he was really a professional lawyer. Mr. Speaker, you saw me here representing UPC to lay a wreath on the casket of the late Mayanja Nkanji. I did it for a purpose, because I sat with him in the Constituent Assembly. I know his views. His views, when we were debating the 1995 Constitution, were such that being in different parties does not mean that we are enemies. He would have done the same if I was the one laying here. He would have maybe represented some other party. He knew how to differentiate his role as a national figure. He knew how to contribute his country as a person, irrespective of what he believed in. I have been apparently following in his footsteps. He was Minister of Finance. I joined the Ministry of Finance after he had left, and I saw his record there. He was Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. I am now a Minister of State for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. I can assure you that everywhere I followed him, I found his record to be very clean. Yes, I have been following him, though I'm still hanging around. I'm not about to follow him here.
Bukoto South. Then I have General Tumwine after Bukoto.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. This is a very sad moment for everybody here, and especially me at the moment, when Joshua Mayanja Nkanji is here before us as a dead person. He was a friend of my late father. Eventually, he became my friend. I remember vividly 2 engagements between him and I, which were very personal. One day, when the government had a tax waiver for raw materials for all industries, I went to him. Look here, I want to refurbish my hotel. Can you give me a tax waiver under the industrial raw material tax waiver? He said, Babali, no, how? I say, when I refurbish my hotel, beddings and equipments, they are my raw materials to make money. He sat very diligently, he checked the law, and he said, yes, you can only do it once you engrave the equipment. Once you label all the beddings, then I'll give you a tax waiver. And he did. And indeed, he did. And from that time, all hotels have been actually enjoying tax waivers on the refurbishment of the hotel industry. Further still, when I lost my wife, actually, it was a very sad moment, and I decided ever not to remarry. And even the journalists came to me, I said, never. Because I could not find anybody competent enough to replace my dear wife. When it came into papers, Joshua Mayanja Nkanji, before you hear, he came to my house. He said, Babali, I'm here. I knew your father. That's the wrong decision. You must remarry. You were still a young man. Indeed, I complied. And up to now, yes. Mr. Speaker, sir, great leaders have fallen. Great leaders have fallen. Most of you heard what happened in Greece when a great philosopher, Socrates, when he died, everybody started crying like we are crying today. One of his friends, Plato, he came, he said, what are you doing all over here? They told him, please, don't you see Socrates is dead? We are crying for him. Plato told them, stop crying for Socrates. Cry for yourselves. What will you do when the great philosopher is gone? What will you do when the great thinker is no more? Likewise, Ugandans. What will you do when the monarchist is before you here and is dead? What will you do when the senior economist is dead? What will you do when the senior lawyer is dead? What will you do when a senior caliphist is here before you dead? He was a great philosopher. Buganda has lost a leader. Uganda has lost a statesman.
General Tumwine, UPDF.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to add my voice to express my condolences to the family, which is a very big family, of the late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji, who became my very close friend as soon as we came into government and used to call me in confidence whenever he had tough decisions to make. Many of us who are here qualify to be his children and some to be his grandchildren. It is not how much you leave behind for the children that is most important, but what you leave in the children. He has left a lot in us that I can only summarize it, and on a day like this, I speak less, in 3 sentences. He was a distinguished pillar of his culture. He was a distinguished pillar for his country. He was a distinguished, humble, honest, dedicated, God-fearing leader. May his soul rest in peace.
Aivu.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I stand to second the motion once again to pay tribute to a distinguished gentleman who has served this country in various capacities, and also the Buganda Kingdom. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to pay tribute and extend my condolences to the family. I stand here as the chairperson of West Nile Parliamentary Caucus to pay tribute on behalf of my members from that region and also the people I represent. Madam Speaker, as Right Honorable Speaker, as everyone has said, I am standing here as a grandson to the late, and I have summarized 3 key principles that I have picked from the late. One, Right Honorable Speaker, is his grounding and rootedness in his beliefs or religious belief. All his actions as espoused in the various positions he served, you can tell that this was a man who believed in his religion. And want to thank the religious foundation that mentored him from childhood up to his death, because those are fundamental principles that guided him in leading this country. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand here to attest that this was a cultured man. I think the motion that the government chief whip laid here is a testimony to that. Despite his level of education, his, knowledge, he lowered himself to serve his people in the cultural institution, that is the Buganda Kingdom. And that has distinguished him from other Baganda. Right Honorable Speaker, last but not least, I'll say the late was relevantly educated, which education he put to the service, not only to this country, but the entire globe. I'm very sure there are people who must have come here in this country to consult him, to get information from him by way of doing research and other studies. And by so doing, he used his knowledge.
Kayunga District.
Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. Sorry, Right Honorable Speaker. Let me join the rest of the honorable colleagues to pay tribute to our fallen father, friend, and a senior citizen of this country. Right Honorable Speaker, I had my first encounter with the fallen Mayanja Nkanji in 2007 as a child, but an adult who had escorted her mother to meet my mother's lawyer. I met a humble, soft-spoken person, and that is the time when they agreed with my mother that she won't be coming more often to his office, but that she will be sending me to his office to take on the case forward. It was a land matter. Between 2007 and 2011, I always met the Honorable Mayanja Nkanji. And it is during that time that I came to learn about issues of land administration, land management, and how land is grabbed. And in 2012, when I was appointed Minister of State Lands, that is when we worked in the same office as he was the chairman, Uganda Land Commission. I remember him inviting me to his office. And the words he said to me were not to congratulate me. He said, I've known you for the last 4 or 5 years. But since I know your character, you are not going to have it soft. But all he said was, be strong, because you're taking in a very dangerous job. Right Honorable Speaker, when you step in that office called Ministry of Lands as a minister, the first thing that you get on your table are offers from land officers. They want you to get involved in the dirt such that you're compromised. They silence you before you even start work. And in so doing, they want you to be compromised and you do not mention of the dirt that is therein. Mayanja Nkanji taught me one thing, and that is what everybody has talked about, integrity. Keep your hands clean. The records will talk about yourself. And it's not easy. That's why of late you've heard that we have patriotism classes. We are now teaching our children in Uganda to be patriotic, to love their country. But that is not what should have been done. It is because we have lost our values. Mayanja Nkanji never served with selfish interests.
Kalungu District.
Honorable Speaker. Yes. We are here.
Right Honorable Speaker. Fellow manners, I'm raising to pay tribute to Honorable Joshua Mayanja Nkanji, not only as a woman member of parliament representing Kalungu district, but as a daughter to the fallen. I came to know, or I met Uncle Mayanja Nkanji in 1976. When I was young, Muslims know that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, left his parents and joined another family, and those people, they became foster parents. So these people, they looked after me at the age of 4 years up to date. I lived with the eldest brother, that is Uncle Grace Lumala, who was the eldest brother to Honorable Joas Mayanja Nkanji. So today, it's so sad that we are going to miss Uncle Mayanja Nkanji. Since Monday, people have talked, they have said so many good things about Mayanja Nkanji, and it is the truth. That is the truth about Honorable Mayanja Nkanji. I will not go into everything what these people have said since Monday. But so many things I remember about him. He's the one who mentored me in politics. At the age of 9 years, when he was a chairperson and a president of Conservative Party, I used to move with him. He was the first person who brought me to Kampala. I didn't have even shoes by that time when we came to State Square to campaign at 9 years. But of recent, because time is against us, of recent, when he went to visit the widow of the late brother, that is Mama Nora Naseje, at Chiyankuyege, that is when he learned that I was contesting for the seat of Member of Parliament of Kalungu District.
Buraya.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to talk about my friend, Joash Mayanja Nkanji, who I knew in 1993 when I was working as a journalist with a New Vision and working on the political desk. I met him so many times. We talked a lot about politics, but most importantly, I found him a very interesting person. He was humble but extremely interesting. And I discovered later that he had been with my father-in-law in London several times to negotiate Uganda's independence. The late Joash Mayanja Nkanji was representing Uganda Kingdom. My father-in-law was representing Toro Kingdom in the Lancaster Square in 1960. They used to call them Lancaster conferences to negotiate Uganda's independence. There was Dr. Lumu from here. There were leaders of political parties, Dr. Bote Semogerere, and others who would go in those conferences to negotiate independence. And so we really became friends throughout the time I worked at the political desk. But in 2012, I met him again and I asked him out. I said, I want you to come to my home and I make for you a meal. I was really shocked he accepted and came with one of our family friends, a guy called Joseph Luyinda. And we had lunch. He sat in my little home where I was staying in Bugolobi for about 3 hours, talking to me about politics. At that time, I had taken leave of politics. I wasn't a member of parliament. I was in private life, but he accepted my invitation and came to my home. I felt so humbled, and he really left an indelible ink in my life when he came to visit me. And his children, please pay me a visit one day, because your dad was really my friend, and so the friendship can continue. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may his soul rest in peace.
Nakaseke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the people of Nakaseke, my family and on my own behalf, I wish to register our condolences to the family of the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji. Mr. Speaker, I first met the late when he came to launch cocoa growing at my father's farm. And I sang the welcome song to him. It was in English. Deep in the village in Bugerere, he was very excited. And when he was leaving, he told my father that he should take me to either to Gayaza High School or Budo or Makerere College School for my secondary school. My father abided. He took me to Makerere College School. And he told him, if he took me to those schools, I would become a great woman. And I did, indeed, I'm here as a great woman, a senior legislator, because of the advice he gave to my father. I later on met him when I was the finance manager of UDB, and we had a crisis. I went very worried, very anxious. When I got there, he disarmed me. He welcomed me in his soft voice. Before attending to the issue which he had taken, he started lecturing to us so many things about the economy, about economics. And by the time we got to discuss the subject matter, we already cooled down. I later on met him as a colleague when I was Minister of Economic Monitoring. And I had been given the task to popularize the VAT at that time. We went to him because the public had rejected VAT. We thought he was going to give us strong marching orders, but instead he sat us down. He lectured to us on how to handle the VAT in order for people to accept it. We followed his advice and the VAT was accepted. Mr. Speaker, when I became one of the successors in office to him, he called me and he said, Muchala, I want to give you some tips on how to run that ministry. And indeed, he gave me very important tips, which I followed, which led me to the extent of getting the award of the best finance minister of Africa in 2010. I got it because of the advice and the tips he gave me. Mr. Speaker, one wise man said that success is not measured so much by the level achieved, but by the number of hurdles survived. Mr. Speaker, the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji survived a lot of hurdles. They have talked about the dam.
Gulu municipality.
Right Honourable Speaker, I rise here on behalf of the people of Gulu municipality to pay tribute to a national hero. 2 years ago, we worked together with the late in organizing a national conference called the National Reconciliation Conference that took place in Munyonyo. And he spoke for 3 hours on the quest of bringing Uganda as one. And in one of those statements, he made 2 remarks that are very critical and I remain thinking about. That tribalism has been a politicized process. And in Buganda, he said, Baganda are not tribalist. And he justified. He said, there are categorization in Buganda that if you are a foreigner, first the real Bagandas are called Baganda Gere Gere. That was the statement he made in that conference. And then 2, he said, if you are integrated into Buganda, you are called Muganda Wau. That I remember. And then the 3rd one, he said that if you are very recent, you are called Muganda Njanech Komita. Those are three things that I remember that today we are missing a lot in terms of integration, in terms of our communities. And I'll never forget him when he also stated that in Buganda there is need for research. There's a clan called Nkebuka that is actually disappearing. And he said these are challenges that the Baganda should face very seriously. He has a manuscript that is almost complete, that Buganda Kingdom should take seriously. It is written, Out of Empire into Servitude. He said that work should be accomplished. And I request the government of Uganda to help together with the Buganda Kingdom to make sure that that book titled Out of Empire into Servitude should be published for the rest of Ugandans. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Member, you use some words that are not necessarily English. And the language of this house is English. You might want to translate the wow, all those things. Masaka municipality.
Right, Honourable Speaker, at the risk of watering down the able submission of my good friend from Gulu, I rise to join the rest of the House to pay tribute to this great son of Uganda. Hitherto, he was a part of the massacre that we knew and loved before the Balkanization of Uganda into a multiplicity of minute districts. I convey my condolences to the family and the government, because I believe he was an able and faithful servant of this country. The late Right Honourable Speaker believed and had faith in the idea that the founding ideals of this country at the making of Uganda 55 years ago would be realized in our time. That is a country that served all without fear of contradiction. Of course, in the knowledge that Uganda is a melting pot of so many ethnicities, and therefore we need to live as a one country. Unfortunately, he leaves behind a country at the blink of surrendering into personal rule, family rule, and self-service. He believed and preached, and of course propagated, fair government as a vehicle for promoting, common good. And personally, as a center-right idealist, I do not find his conservative view of governance in contradiction, but rather good in cross-fertilizing center-right ideals that he believed in. He believed and propagated federalism. He was well understood in his message of federalism as a vehicle for promoting common good. But of course, as we know, he was shortchanged. But as a man of good faith and deep belief, he held back in the belief that posterity will vindicate him. He leaves the challenge of a failed decentralization system. As a loyal servant of the King and the Kingdom, we thank him for being a good example for many of us who followed him. And in the kingdom, his name is only discussed in matters of legends. I know for a fact, Right Honourable Speaker, that he sleeps here in disappointment at the treatment he endured at the Land Commission, his last official point of service. The mafia.
Mukono Mpiji.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
I join the entire House, and I want to deliver my condolence message to the family. I came to know the late in 1992 when we visited him with Omutakandugwa Semakula. Those were the days for the installation of Buganda Kingdom. But I admired, because all has been said, Right Honorable Speaker, about politics, but I admired his level of smartness. But yesterday, when I visited the widow, Ruth, and members of the family, I reflected where the smartness was coming from. So I want to use this opportunity to thank sincerely Mama Ruth for taking care, special care of the late. He was exemplary smart. I don't know whether the late has written a book about his life journey. If not so, it is my humble request that the children better do so that we could continue, have more about a strong man like the late Joshua Mayanja Nkanji. As I conclude, Right Honorable Speaker, we have talked about loyalty. I'm the chairperson of Buganda Caucus in the 10th Parliament. I want to appeal to members. Let us don't simply be here and talk about loyalty. We changed our constitution of Buganda Caucus, and our main emphasis, all the members of Buganda Caucus must be loyal to Kabaka. And I must emphasize it here. We must be loyal to Kabaka. As we praise him, let us continue being loyal. He managed to balance. He was loyal to Kabaka and loyal to central government. Why can't we do so? May his loyal soul rest in eternal peace.
I'll have, no, let me first have Ufumbira. Is that Ufumbira or the Bufumbira South, yes? And I come to Mpiji then.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise to support the motion. First and foremost, I would like to convey my condolences and deep sympathies to the family of the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji. I'd like to pay tribute to this great man lying here. I join my colleagues who have recognized his attributes in life, but I think the late will be remembered for his humility, remembered for his truthfulness, for his hard work, and so many attributes which everyone here has said. But perhaps the most lasting legacy of this colleague is his high levels of integrity. The late Joash Mayanja Nkanji was incorruptible. He was incorruptible. You could never corrupt him. He stayed clear of these handshakes. Very clear. So, this is a person that we should emulate. Unfortunately, I read in the papers that he had cancer of the colon that could not be diagnosed. I don't know whether that was true. But if that is true, this comes soon after the late Margaret Mungerera. This reminds me, it's time to reflect on our health systems. Everything, gentlemen and ladies, honorable members, lies with us. We keep talking about our health systems, but we are not able to improve them. We are
our role, the main role we have here, is oversight of the executive. But are we asking the right questions? If we're asking the right questions, are we getting the right answers? Why do we keep talking and talk? Why do we keep talking and talking and we get no answers? Why? I want to ask. Has anyone been to Murago and seen the Cancer Institute? Have you seen the Cancer Ward?
Honorable members, I have Mr. Gagai from a farmer from Bugiso Cooperative Union. He has come to observe the proceedings of the House. Please join me in welcoming him. He's right that side. You're welcome, sir. He comes from Budadiri West, represented by Honorable Nandala Mafab. PG District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the people of Mpigi and on my own behalf, I wish to extend my condolences to the bereaved family, Buganda Kingdom, and the entire country. The late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji has served this country diligently in different portfolios and with credibility. The first time I met him, it was in 2011, when I had just joined the politics. There were a lot of land grabbing in my district, and the people would come to me as their MP for assistance. I didn't know how I would help them. So I said to myself, let me go to the chairman, Uganda Land Commission. I reached there during lunch hours, and he was getting out for lunch. And as I was entering, the secretary told me that my boss is going for lunch. Maybe we'll come back tomorrow, because in the afternoon he was going for some meeting. So as he was going out, I introduced myself. When he saw me, I introduced myself, and he said, no, let me get back and help you, because you are representing people, you were elected to serve them. I was also put in this office to serve the whole country. So let me back in the office and we talk. When I reached there, we talked, he advised me, he told me what to do and how I would do it in a very humble way. And I walked out of his office wondering how he would, the way he handled me, the way he attended to me. I really wondered. We shall miss him as a country. We shall miss his guidance. We shall miss this gallant son of the soil. May his soul rest in peace.
Honorable Sematimba.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'd like to take this opportunity to join this august House in expressing my most sincere condolences to the family of the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, to the Kingdom of Buganda, to the Republic of Uganda, and to the Church and Body of Christ, to which he was very committed. On the loss of a great family man and a friend, on the loss of a great and loyal son of Buganda, and on the loss of a great patriotic citizen of Uganda, and dare I say, perhaps a great citizen of the world. Right Honorable Speaker, I knew the late Mayanja Nkanji since 1993 when I came back to Uganda, on a personal level. But I also know him, as many others do, through the testament of history, via books, news articles, television shows, and the words of many a man and many a woman. And they all testify of his cool, calm, non-abrasive, non-divisive, self-respecting, but respectful of others' demeanor. His love for his family and friends was unquestionable. His love for Buganda, absolutely solid and enviable. And his love for Uganda was one of commitment, purpose, and pride. And to all those that he cared about, he expressed his love through dedication, service, loyalty, and selflessness. And as a result, The man has ended up living a life that is long, fulfilling, successful, and one that has left a positive impact on this nation and humanity at large. So I suggest that we emulate his life and do the same. But most importantly, Honorable Speaker, he was a man with foresight. He knew that this day would come, and he prepared for it by having a great personal relationship with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm very sure that today, he has joined God and Jesus in the heavenlies to begin a party that will last forever. So because the Bible teaches us that death is just a door to a great eternity, I'm not going to wish him to rest in peace. I wish his soul a most exciting, fulfilling, eternal reign with the Lord Jesus Christ. Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit.
Bamunanika? Bamunanika?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand to pay tribute to this great man of this country. Right Honorable Speaker, and also to deliver condolences from the people of Bamunanika, where the late did quite a lot of work with my people. My people in Bamunanika still have a lot of many good memories about the soft-spoken, humble, clean leader in Joas, Mayanja Nkanji. My people are still nursing the memories of that clean leader, clean inside and clean outside, ever. Right Honorable Speaker, the late who is lying before us here was a distinguished leader. He served almost, he was appointed to all the highest offices in the Kingdom of Uganda. He held big offices in government. He remained himself. He remained humble. He remained selfless in service. He was somebody who could be approached and reached by everybody anytime he wanted to be served. As a Minister of Education and Sports, he had the big ear for almost everybody, the children, the students, the teachers, and the parents. We shall miss this great son of the soil. Many of us, when we are appointed into leadership, we change the styles of movement, even the way we walk. Some of us start moving as if we are at the top of the world. I think in Joas Mayanja Nkanji we have a very good lessons to take home. That you can be what you are, whether honorable what, and continue interfacing, interacting, and treating people as human beings. The late Mayanja Nkanji was a caring, free with almost everybody. He loved this country. He loved his tribe. He loved the Kingdom of Uganda. And he served all without fear or favor, with all the fairness there was. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Honorable members, I have this list. Let me start with this one. Kinkizi East, Isinjiro North, Ibanda North, Obongi, Kasanda South, Mukono Municipality, and Gomba County. Let's go in that order, then we'll see how to move. Kinkizi East.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I stand here to support the motion moved by the Right Honorable Prime Minister, and I would want, on behalf of the people of Kanungu and on my own behalf, to convey condolences to the family and all Ugandans for losing a very great man. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, my first physical interaction with the Honorable Mayanja Nkanji was shortly after the takeover of the NRM government, when he visited us at our secondary school. I was then in St. Paul's Seminary, Kabale. And he came as a Minister of Education and gave us a talk on a range of issues, including the political history of this country. He articulated the government policy and many other issues. And when it came to question time, one of the students asked him why UPM had gone to the bush. And he justified why. And I recall giving a rhetorical phrase that, you see, if you are put in a sack and you are told to run, what do? Run you must. Justifying that UPM then had no option but to go to the bush and restore order. Even when his background was Conservative Party, but he was able to justify what UPM stood for and the policies of government. A tribute which probably most of us may not be able to do in the current political atmosphere. And we saw in him as an astute statesman, a patriotic Ugandan who wanted to see a transformed Uganda. And I am happy that God gave him many more years since then to not only witness, but also participate in the transformation process of this country. And I want to disabuse those who say that he has died a frustrated man. I differ from that. I think he's satisfied that the country has undergone remarkable transformation over the years, and I'm sure whoever has eyes can be able to see that transformation. Right Honorable Speaker, his last point, place of appointment in public life was, as earlier stated, the chairman of the Uganda Land Commission, a commission which falls under the ministry where I serve as the minister responsible for housing. Let me say, as has already been stated, that this was a tempting appointment because as the chair of the Land Commission, you are in charge of government land all over the country. And if
It's injured on oath.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I stand to support the motion pay tribute to late Honorable Joash Mayanja. Honorable Speaker, I have known the late while he was serving in different capacities as a polished politician and a statesman. And as you recall, even after he had retired, he was given a job in a very sensitive area in Uganda Land Commission. And I've never at any one time found him wanting. As leaders, it is good that we reflect on what we do and also on the lives of people like Honorable Mayanja. Right, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the government and the President for having identified him and giving him a chance to serve this country and whose services we have benefited. As the Minister of Education, as Minister for Finance, and as somebody who was responsible for the most volatile Department of Lands. Finally, is that we need to reflect on our lifestyle as politicians. And Honorable Speaker, we have seen people here in this house, especially those who come here for us to pay tribute, that in most cases, we cause ourselves problems. By the time they identify when you are sick, you're already in advanced stages of dying. I think as we continue, we need to find out a mechanism for members of parliament and high-profile people to have regular checks so that we can avoid situations that actually are not present. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, first of all for presiding over this function and also for giving us time to talk about his celebrated life. I thank everybody in one or the other who has touched the life of the late while he was sick, because he's a deserving case. Finally, we pray that the Almighty God rest his peace, his soul in perfect peace. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Ibanda? Ibanda is not here. Obongi? Obongi is not here. Kasanda South.
Right Honourable Speaker and the honourable members. Right Honourable Speaker, on behalf of the people of Kasanda South and my own behalf, I want to pay tribute to the great son of this country, Honourable Joshua Mayanja Nkanji, the one lying before us here. A lot has been spoken by previous speakers, but for me, I want to point out two important things which I observed about Honourable Mayanja Nkanji. My first time to meet him was in 1980. A very young boy in Midiana town. I attended a political rally. I went with my parents, and I saw a short man who was very humble and very articulate. Yes, like me. But there are two things which I want to point out. A half-century Kireni record of service of Honourable Joshua Mayanja Nkanji. Mr. Speaker, sir, many of his group, they have served his country, but some have had what you call scandals in the public life. But the man lying before us here has had what you call a scandal-free public service. For all the years he has served this country, you cannot mention any moment when he was summoned at police to record a statement, or taken to court, or sent to Luzira upper prison. It is not there. 50 years of service. That is very unique, very unique. The second point, Mr. Speaker, I want to point out, other members have partly mentioned it, but his loyalty and love to the Kabaka and the kingdom. Very, very unique. Right, Honourable Speaker, history has it that in 1960, after 1960 crisis, a number of MPs in this house where I'm standing right now crossed from KY to UPC and from DP to UPC. But Mayanja Nkanji remained in the KY. Mayanja Nkanji loved his Kabaka, to the extent that when the king was exiled, Nkanji went to London and joined him. By virtue of his education, if I had remained here and joined UPC, Obote would have appointed him a minister. But he refused that offer and went and joined the king and stayed with him. And when the king passed away, Nkanji was very instrumental in mentoring the crown prince
Mukono Municipality.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I do associate myself to the contribution made in support of the motion by my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, while in this house, the late is with us, his body is here with us, but he's not able to make any contribution here on this microphone. I have therefore decided, with your permission, Right Honorable Speaker, that I will dedicate my few minutes to him and read just 2 paragraphs from the last interview he gave to the press. Maybe if we put these words on the Hansard, they will be useful not only to the present generation, but even in the future. Mr. Speaker, this is what the late said in his last words. It was properly quoted in the Monitor, published on the 26th of November 2012. He said this country has been a terrible place. I'll tell you why I say so. Uganda became independent in 1962, Tanzania in 1961, Kenya in 1963, but see what happened. Tanzania has never fought, no coup. They have more tribes than Uganda. The Kenyans only fought colonialists, Mau Mau. They never fought, but look at Uganda. The first president was deposed violently. Who deposed him? Obote. Obote was deposed violently, although he was away in 1979. Amin took over. Amin was deposed violently in 1979. He was deposed by Museveni's group and Rule, who was my teacher at King's College, Budo. So he was deposed and replaced by Binaisa. Godfrey was also pushed out. Then in 1980, a second Obote came back after elections. When he comes back, he's pushed out again in 1985 by Rutwa. In 1986, the NLRA take over again by Ghana. We must ask ourselves a question. What kind of life are we leading in Uganda really? Removing every president by force. What are we? These are not my words. These are the words of the late. Mr. Speaker, as we send off this great son of Uganda, and as the Hansard captures these as his last words, we need to reward these people who fought for independence with a peaceful transition of power. In this interview, if you read it, his last interview, he says that once you lead the people unconstitutionally, you must go. That is what Mayanja said. Mr. Speaker, I want to use this time to beg Ugandans that we should.
Gomba.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I bring sincere condolences from the people of Gomba West, from my family, from my father, and from myself, to the family of the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, to the nation and to the Buganda Kingdom. Mrs. Mayanja Nkanji, I bring you sincere condolences from Mr. Francis Gureme, who is my father and who was a dear friend of your husband. He held him in high esteem. Thank you for your role in standing by your husband, for besides every great man, there's a great woman. May his deeds be emulated by his family, and may his deeds and times be documented for the benefit of all Ugandans. I would beg that if you have any memoirs, you come up with something in writing. He left a good legacy. He's a wholesome being. We've heard how he was a dedicated politician, a dedicated son of Buganda, an accomplished lawyer, and I'm proud to be a lawyer like he was and an old Budonian like he was. This is the caliber of old public servants that we had and who we should emulate for the good that they have done for this country. I would like to pray that we emulate his good deeds, and I would like to thank him for doing all that and blending in at the same time. It shows us that actually nothing is impossible and we can make it through life. Thank God for his being, thank God for the work that he did, and greetings once again from Gomba.
Is that Buikwe? Buikwe South?
I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity you've given to me to pay tribute to the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji. I came into direct contact with the late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji about 26 years ago as a younger graduate who had chosen to participate in university politics at the hottest time of politics at Makerere, where the Right Honorable Speaker today was also a victim. I was introduced to him by my late uncle, Lieutenant Colonel Katerega, to do an advisory role as I chose to take part in this politics. In my association with him, I found him to be a political encyclopedia of the political history of this country. It is very unfortunate and very sad for this country at such a time when we go through a lot of distortions in the politics of this country, that we are losing a figure that is very, very useful to all of us. Honorable Joshua Mayanja Nkanji pursued whatever he believed in, and he actually pursued everything in originality. In 1980, when he founded the Conservative Party, it was his party and his party alone that pursued the restoration of the institution of Kabakaship. He did not wait to jump and claim the best outcomes of it, as other politicians may have chosen to do. In my engagements with him, he was always advocating for pursuing the best through dialogue. In fact, in whatever quotation that we've heard from the monitor, he said whatever he said because he believed in the pursuit of peace to achieve whatever goals he may have wanted at any particular time. It was because of...
Honourable members, let me take this list and then we see if we can still proceed. Budadiri West, Honourable Gwanahasa, Kalungu East. Budadiri West, Honourable Gwanahasa, and Kalungu East. Then we see if there's still time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I joined the Ministry of Finance in 1988 as one of the young guys from the university. And in 1989, when Honorable Mayanja became the Minister of Finance, I was there. And I was one of those who grew up to high rank through him. And I recall when I joined the ministry, the Secretary to Treasury then was Kahoza, who, during induction time, he spoke very well, and I said, I want to become the Secretary to Treasury. And since then, Kahoza referred to me as ST, and is the one who took me to the Minister of Finance then, and said, this is my Secretary to Treasury. And Mr. Speaker, seriously, I worked under him. He was a sincere person, very clear-headed, not like all ministers I've seen. I've had a number of them, but I can testify. Some of you just met him on the road. At least me, I worked under him. I knew who he was. All the negotiations he had in World Bank, IMF, whatever, for the people of Uganda to get money were true negotiations. And he would ask, where are the benefits for the locals, not those who want to know how much they benefit from. Mr. Speaker, maybe before I continue, I also want to ask the government to tell us who are those who qualify to be brought in Parliament when they have left. Yes. Because recently, on Tuesday, we buried Honorable Kemu, who was a member of Parliament, and he wasn't brought. Honorable Joshua left in 2001. I can't say I blame him. He has worked a lot. He was been brought. Maombe Mukwana left in the NRC. He was brought. Ekemo was not. So I want to know, because anytime I might leave also Parliament, if I die, I must know, will I be brought or I will not be brought? And all those who can. So, Mr. Speaker, I remember one thing he told me, that Buganda and Bugisu are accommodative. In fact, I bring my condolences from Bugisu. For all of you who know, Bugisu was colonized by Buganda when Semei Kakungulu came. And that's when he introduced Mile land. We have Mile land. And a Mivule tree. And when they ask us, we say Mivule trees were planted by Kakungulu. And by the way, to show you that we are accommodative, the MPs of Buganda, 70% are non-Baganda. Go and do research. And for us in Bugisu, we also have the MPs who are non-Bagisu. So the only two tribes which can accommodate is the Bagisu and the Baganda.
Thank you. I'd already picked Honorable Gwana Hassan. But honorable members, I think I need to say something about what the Honorable has just raised. Honorable Gwana Hassan, please, before we let go of it. This House has a responsibility to the sitting members of Parliament, and that's what we budget for. If anything should happen to a sitting member of Parliament, it is our responsibility to handle. When somebody is not a sitting member of Parliament, that responsibility of making it an official burial or not rests with the executive arm of government. And it's done in consultation with the Parliament so that we can adjust our calendar and accommodate such things. Sometimes it's not intended that certain personalities should not come. The Honorable Auzo was a minister. He died in West Nile. The Right Honorable Deputy Prime Minister was the one in charge of the operation, but it was practically impossible to bring the body to Parliament at that time. And we sat and had a meeting, said, now what do we do? Because a decision was taken by the executive that it should be given an official burial. But practically it was not workable within the time frame. We paid a tribute here without the body, but he was buried. Honorable Abola George was ambassador, he was a member of Parliament, he was a minister. His body was never brought here. The family decided they wanted to bury him as quickly as possible. They took the body. So there's no what? It's just that once the decision is taken, it is implemented. It doesn't matter who it is, but some discussions have got to be taken out and people take responsibility. Because as Parliament, we cannot take that decision. If a person is not a sitting member of Parliament, we cannot take that decision. The executive takes that decision. And sometimes they also have challenges with how to implement the decision. So sometimes we end up with only tribute motions when the body is already buried. And they are not few, there are many. So let's not make something out of it, because it's done really not in bad faith. I have not seen it because I received the phone calls. When Honorable Awuzo died, I was the first to receive the phone call. I was the one in the chair. And we had these discussions with the Right Honorable Prime Minister and everything. He said, no, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. In good spirit. That's how it is done. So let's not push it out of what it is. Yes, Honorable Wanhasa.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I stand here on behalf of the people of Kabwiri constituency to pay tribute to a gentleman. I don't think I have a lot of time to speak because I think, Mr. Speaker, you agreed we close at 5. So I'll just say, the little that everybody has said points to what I was going to say. The Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, who lies before us, portrayed responsibility in everything he did. He portrayed integrity. He portrayed compassion. And most of all, he portrayed excellence in whatever he did. As members of parliament and as members of government, I think those are the values that I would plead with all of us to portray. One of you said, one honorable member of parliament said, he spoke with a soft voice. I used to hear him talk. Again, like somebody said, yeah, he was a friend of my father, Bishop Gonahasa. Mayanja Nkanji never shouted. Maybe he shouted in his house. His family is here. I wish we would sharpen our points and not our voices in all deliberations we undertake. That is a measure of excellence in anybody's life. I just want to thank the government of Uganda for bringing this to pass, and I want to pray that the soul of the deceased will be rested in peace. I want to thank the Kingdom of Uganda for allowing this to happen. I think we are growing as a democracy and as a nation. I come from the East, but I'm proud to be associated with the Mayanja Nkanji family, and I thank God that I've been able to speak. In my language we say, Asiri Kayena Akungo Mai. That's not English, but it means even those who don't speak mourn the death of the parents. So at times when I'm not picked to speak on such an occasion, I know what goes on in my heart. May your soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Kalungu, yes, that will be the last one, please. Honorable members.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I want, on behalf of the people of Kalungu East and the people of Greater Masaka, to sincerely thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for presiding over this very important sitting today when we are paying tribute to a gallant son of Kalungu. I want also to thank the Right Honorable Prime Minister for this motion. I want also to thank the members who have contributed, who have said very good things to our son, Honorable Joas Mayanja Nkanji. In Uganda, there is a saying, but I say it in English, which says that a mother is always blamed for the sins of a bad son or daughter. But for Kalungu and the Masaka in general, Joash Mayanja Nkanji has made us proud. And there is very little I can add to what you have mentioned about Nkanji. Has been a disciplined, obedient, humble, hard-working, exemplary leader, even at home where we come from. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, sometimes people are good when they are in Kampala, when they are with those people with whom they compare the levels, but not good at home. From here we are going to the vigil at home. We are going to sleep there. But many people have been sleeping there since, even without the body of Honorable Nkanji. Honorable Nkanji has not died frustrated with the frustration, like some people wanted to imply. Honorable Mayanja Nkanji went to a primary school called Kabungo in Kalungu West. And there were only 4 primary schools in the whole of Kalungu County, which is now Kalungu District. He has died at a time when Kalungu District has over 200 primary schools and over 40 secondary schools. In fact, we had no secondary school in Kalungu. That's why he went to Kako and stayed at somebody's home, not even a relative. So, right, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members, Honorable Nkanji has really left a legacy, and his contribution during his time of leadership and the responsibilities he made to this country.
Thank you, Honorable. It's time. We are not going to adjust the time. I received a petition from the Rwenzori region. So for that matter, I'm going to pick the Honorable Member for Bukonjo West. Honorable Member for Ngora, Kitagwenda, Rukunjiri District. Please, briefly, 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My deepest condolences to the family, the Uganda Kingdom, and also the Uganda Parliamentary Caucus and Uganda at large. A lot has been really said about a great man. Many times we get these kind of scenarios and somehow you struggle to bring out the goodness and the mercy and grace of somebody. But for us here, as someone, Mr. Speaker, even if you give me one whole week, I'll be able to talk about the goodness, the greatness, the mercy, and the grace of this great individual. I thank the Lord that in this world, He will never ask one question and to say, anyone measuring up to Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji should be able to live the following day. I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, probably one, yourself, and Madam Speaker and somebody else, but I can tell you would be emptied or depopulated as a country. Mr. Speaker, I have requests about 4. Number 1, Mr. Speaker, that the book please be published. Number 2, that we can, for his spirit and his distinguished service to this country to endure on or live on forever, we can sanction or we can work it out with Makerere University to have a scholarship in his name. And that scholarship program could be called the Joash Mayanja Nkanji Public Finance and Economics.
Ngora County.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to say something briefly. I am a publicity for TESO parliamentary group. It would have been unfair for TESO not to appear anywhere in our answer here. It would have been unfair, really. And now, I have 3 things to mention here. Number 1, I want to thank God who made this man. That's number 1. God did a wonderful job from a humble beginning, and it took him right up to the level of being a katikiro, then a finance minister in the government of Uganda. And for having done a great job, Mr. Speaker, my view in this case is that we would actually name him a minister of the century for having done a great job. Number 2, allow me read, since he has been a Christian and a good one, allow me read one verse from the Bible. Because it will be unfair not for us not to read the Bible in this house when we are talking about him. I'm reading from the book of Revelation chapter 21 verse 4. And it says, God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes. I know we as a parliament are crying for the loss of this great man. And I'm sure Ugandans are crying for the loss of this great man. But now here, Mr. Speaker, the Bible is saying, and God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes. So as we mourn, God will wipe away our tears. And there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying. Neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away.
Chagwenda.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Chagwenda and myself, we join the rest of the colleagues and Ugandans in cacophony to eulogize and mourn the late Joash Mayanja Nkanji, and Mr. Speaker, more proudly, because the conclusion of the life of Joash Mayanja Nkanji sheds a picture of light on the life of a typical African child. Mr. Speaker, African children live a life of struggle, a life of really struggle, but a life of possibilities. This gives hope that a child can be born and raised in a village as far away from Kampala, as remote as Katonga, or wherever it is, Chanamukaka, whatever, and raised to be one of the most spoken about Ugandans, to be one of the most spoken about Africans. We thank him for the great life he lived. We thank him for being a very hardworking person. Because, Mr. Speaker, through all the eulogies that have been made, it is clear that because he was a bright young man at an early stage, he won himself a scholarship, and that changed his life completely. Our children, therefore, must be told that they should have hope. They should fight and struggle against all odds in the lives they live in order to make themselves and our country better. Mr. Speaker, in 2007, while I served as chairman of the Youth League of the NRM, I met the Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji, and I engaged him in a conversation about the corruption that we would see going on in the government. And he asked me a question in response to my question, that, young man, if you are given a sack of sugar to keep in custody for someone, and that sack of sugar has a hole, a small hole on it, would you better widen the hole and the sugar pours out, or is taken, that when they come you tell them there was a hole and the sugar was poured? Or
Rukunjiri.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. On behalf of the people of Rukunjiri, I would like also to join all of us here to mourn and pay tribute to the gallant son of this country. I first met Honorable Mayanja Nkanji during the Constituent Assembly days. And one thing I vividly remember is that he took us through several issues, especially the land and the governance issues in this country. However, what I want to talk about him and what has compelled me to leave Rukunjiri this morning so that I'm able to come and join the parliament to pay tribute. Two things that he talked about during the induction in the Uganda Land Commission. I had a short stint as a commissioner in Uganda Land Commission before I came to this 10th parliament. And during the induction, which he took us through so many issues, telling us how we can improve the issues of land, especially owned by government in this country. So I thought I was standing up so much so that at least I mentioned these two issues before we say farewell to him and see how us who are still living are going to work on them. He appreciated the computerization system that had been put in place to register the land, the government land in this country. However, he mentioned that the pace was very slow and it should be worked on faster so that we can have the land issues, land governance in this country properly stipulated. Another issue that he talked about was that the Land Commission is a body that is clearly stipulated in the Constitution of this country, 1995. But unfortunately, up to now, there is no specific law that regulates its operations.
Bunya South, and then we'll have Ginger.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Robert Intende, Bunya South, Mayuge. On behalf of Mayuge and on my own behalf, I convey our condolences to the family and to this nation that has lost a wonderful man. Right Honorable Speaker, when I was in primary, I heard about the late as the Minister of Education. And later on, he graduated as the Minister of Finance. But I want to say a very, very unique thing that is very, very remarkable, that he had an argument with Honorable Kawanga Semogerere, I think at around 1979. Honorable Kawanga Semogerere approached him, invited him for 3 times to visit DP offices, and he refused. On the 4th time, he actually gradually went there. Because of that invitation was to join the DP. He was being persuaded by his colleague to join the DP. When he reached the DP offices, he actually said to his colleague that, my brother Semogerere, I respect you so much, but I know even a poor man can cook his own food in his own saucepan and eat it. And therefore, I'm going to start my own party as conservative. And indeed, in 1980, he started a party with his colleagues and he contested for presidency in that time. Whatever happened is history, but he...
Ginger.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for giving this opportunity of paying tribute to the fallen gallant son of this country. My prayers and condolences go out to the family, especially the Abdonians and the fallen Zos Abdonian. Right Honourable Speaker, many times when we are given an opportunity to serve, we use our offices to intimidate and to abuse other people. But the person lying before us here served this country diligently with a high level of integrity, who was patriotic and nationalistic. As leaders of this country, I believe we can learn a thing or two from the fallen Budonian. Humility is very important. To the family, God is in control. The Bible says that when he's gone, God becomes the father and the husband. Rest in peace, our fallen father. Thank you.
Mubende District and Katikamu. Then we close now.
Right Honorable Speaker, thank you so much. On behalf of the people of Mubende and on my own behalf, I want to convey our condolences to the family of the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji, more especially the widow and the orphans. Right Honorable Speaker, in addition, I want to thank God for the life you granted to the late Honorable Mayanja Nkanji. In my own words, I would say that it is a life well lived. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank Mama Mayanja Nkanji, the widow now, for all the support she gave to Honorable Mayanja Nkanji. Because there is a saying that where there is a strong man, rather beside the strong man, there must be a great woman. And that great woman is Mama Mayanja Nkanji. My honorable female, my colleagues, the male members of parliament, can give testimony to this. If you're not comfortable at home, there's nothing much you can do in public. So I want to take this opportunity to put on record and thank Mama Mayanja Nkanji for her contribution. Right Honorable Speaker, to this House, as members of Parliament, it's our duty to appropriate resources. But so many a time, we don't give enough resources for the control and treatment of non-communicable diseases. And if we can take stock, majority of the bodies which have laid before this House, they are victims of non-communicable diseases. If it's not cancer, it's hypertension, diabetes, which can easily be controlled. But this has not been a warning to this House that we need to put more money for non-communicable diseases treatment and control. Reason being, it claims, or they always claim, quality lives of this country. And we lose a lot in those lives. So, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, as we deliberate, I think let this be a wake-up call to make sure that in our next budget, we put some good amount of money. Honorable Speaker, allow me also to thank Government of Uganda for having accorded Honorable Mayanja Nkanji an official burial. Because what we are saying today is a big lesson to the people of Uganda, especially us politicians. Because Honorable Mayanja Nkanji is giving us a yardstick of...
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. On behalf of the people of Katikamu County South and the entire people of Luelo, I wish to join my colleagues to pay tribute to the late Honorable Joas Mayanja Nkanji. I personally came to know the late in 1996 when he was a member of parliament for the constituency now called Kalungu West. He used to come to my place of work. Then my place of work, that is up there in the account section, to seek some more information about finances. You remember at that time, the integrated financial management system was not in place at that time. Everything was being done manually. He was such a good man, very humble. With his soft, small voice, he was so humble to everybody, very intelligent, and above all, he was not selfish at all. He could give guidance to everybody who would come to his place, who would come his way. He was not selfish, and he would give guidance to everybody who would come his way. So we have lost such a very great man who was very hardworking. You remember, he was a leader of a political party, namely Conservative Party. At the same time, he was a cabinet minister. He never involved political issues within government business. We have lost such a man. May God rest his soul in peace. Thank you, Mr.
Casilo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank God for the life of Honorable Joas Mayanja Nkanji. Mr. Speaker, we have been neighbors in Ntinda. We have been going to the same church. So when people talk about Honorable Joas Mayanja being a religious person, I can attest to that. As members of the St. Luke Church in Tinda, it's a great loss to us because we have lost an elder in our church. Mr. Speaker, you did make a clarification on the issues Honorable Nandala raised. I wish the Minister for Presidency did make that clarification in the burial of our former colleague, the late Honorable Charles Ekemu. You would have settled the matter. But the Minister decided to keep quiet. I want to ask the government to make these things clear such that people understand, because these issues were raised and raised. We did not have an opportunity to explain it because it was a matter of the executive. But I think next time when you send ministers to represent government, they should be able to explain this to the people to enable them understand. Because Honorable Abala was really put to a task because he was in this constituency that he was being buried. Maybe at one point in time, I think we need to make a rule where we harmonize the burial of our former colleagues such that it's not misunderstood. May the soul of our fallen elder rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I almost got, but
we save the best for last.
Yeah, I'll save that one for myself. The late, I met him early 80. It was on the street. And he met a very good friend of his. They hugged. And after hugging, the friend told him, "Why are you destabilizing us?" He was actually starting the CP. I saw a gentleman who was very strong, who was determined, and just told him off, friendship apart, I'm a nationalist. I'm starting, I'm moving. And they parted. But lastly, I have a testimony. I was working in Cooperative Bank, and a friend of mine came and said, "I have these taxes and I don't know what to do." I told him, "Why don't you go to Mayanja Nkanji for advice?" At that time, he was the Minister of Finance. And when he reached his home, Mayanja Nkanji told him, "These are matters for the office." They went to the office, he called in the commissioners, they discussed the tax problem, and as a nationalist, he took a decision immediately and said, "We do not only do it for you, but we shall do it for Uganda, and the next budget scrapped those taxes." That's Mayanja Nkanji. We are eulogizing. He was a nationalist. May God help him. May God help us all so that we live in his footsteps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I think this has been, we have violated the request from the family, but it's now past. We have a message from the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, thanking the late for the 10 years of service as Chairman Uganda Land Commission and making a contribution of shillings 5 million to the family, and signed by the Honorable Betty Amoy Ongom. We also have a second condolence message from the Honorable Norbert Mao, President of the Democratic Party. Honorable members, I'll now put the question to the motion, after which I'll ask the Honorable Ruth Nankabira, Government Chief Whip, to give an announcement on the processes after this. The motion that I now put the question to is for a resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to the late Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji for his diligent service to Uganda, and particularly that Parliament collectively conveys its deep condolences to the relatives, friends, and the people of Uganda upon the loss of Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji, and two, that it takes cognizance of the services rendered and the contribution made by the Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. I now put the question to this motion. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Honorable Nankabira, your announcement.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. On behalf of Mama Ruth Mayanja and the entire family, I'd like to express their gratitude to you, Right Honorable Speaker, to the members of Parliament, and the government at large. Thank you for your words of courage. They've been encouraged by your words, and they will be with you. And if I was speaking Luganda, I would have used the word which could bring out their gratitude, but they are indebted to you. Allow me make a few announcements. One is that from here, we are heading to Kalungu, where the late is going to be rested. Tomorrow, we shall begin service at their home at midday, and then we shall do the burial at 2 p.m. We have transport from here at 8 a.m. There is a bus which will take members of parliament as usual. Those who will be able to go to Kalungu tomorrow, please come here at 8 a.m. in the morning so that we can proceed to Kalungu. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
And also, may I take this opportunity also to inform the Right Honorable Prime Minister and the members of the executive that under the Public Finance Management Act, we expect the ministerial policy statements by the 15th of this month. No exception. Please bring those ministerial policy statements by the 15th of this month. This will facilitate the processes from this other side of the house so that they can also make their own contribution and these matters are handled before the deadlines that we ourselves put in the law. Please make sure that happens by the 15th of this month. Thank you.
Item 6, the anthems in reverse order. Members, please stand up. Honorable members, please remain standing as the casket leaves the chamber.
Honorable members, I thank you very much for making your time available to try and give this tribute to the Honorable Joash Mayanja Nkanji. I'm happy that with the contribution and the debate, this is what draws us together as a country. It is people like this who inspire young people, who inspire us even as leaders to make sure that we do the right thing. Thank you. Thank you very much. This special sitting of the House is now adjourned.